Okay, so question number one, what were some causes of World War II? So we've been talking about this for the past week and a half, right? So we should have plenty of reasons, all right? Yes, sir.
Adolf Hitler chose to not listen to what the U.S. said.
All right, so the U.S. and everybody else, right, with the Treaty of Versailles, okay? So the Treaty of Versailles, so that's one reason. What are some of the things that the Treaty of Versailles said that Adolf Hitler was supposed to do and Germany was supposed to do? All right.
No submarines.
No submarines. Okay. Hunter?
Limit their troops to like 100,000.
All right. So 100,000 men. Basically, this is going to be like a National Guard, right? Do what?
Pay back debt.
All right. So not only pay back debt, so they're going to assume some debt with war reparations. Okay. So millions of dollars they're going to have to pay back to Italy and France and Europe. Okay. Yep.
Not to have backroom private conversations.
All right, so and that was part of the 14 points. That really wasn't in the Treaty of Versailles, but that's what's going to lead to World War II. Is that they do have some of those backroom agreements? Yes, sir.
Limited ships.
What?
Limited ships.
All right, limited naval presence. Does anybody remember how many? So how many? What? 6 ships. All right, 6 destroyers. All right, so 6 battleships. So they are limiting the German military force. They can't build up their military. What does he do? As soon as Hitler gets into power, he does what?
Let's build the military.
Let's build the military. Now, at first, not at first. All right. So focus. All right. So not at first. They don't start with all the racist stuff until later. But they are going to start building the military pretty immediately, and Hitler is going to take as much power as he can while not alerting the other nations. Okay, he's gonna build up his military quietly. He's gonna disguise military munitions factories as what? What does he use?
Elementary.
So he's basically like an elementary school, but inside there's bombs and stuff, right? So it's, yeah, and then they're like not allowed to go in there, and there's these whole bunch of these elementary schools all over the place, and then they're not really elementary. All right, so those are a couple reasons. All right, what else? What else are some reasons that we get into World War II? Yes, sir. Right.
The rape of 20,000 women and killed 200 people.
All right, so the rape of Nanjing named that because of the actual crime that was committed there. So really a very aggressive and just disgusting thing from the Japanese there in China. Okay, so they're trying to be aggressive. They're trying to make a name for themselves, and they take it way too far. So this is the U.S. sees this, everybody sees this, and they're taken aback by this, and we really are considering this whole World War thing. Okay, at that point, the U.S. is still not involved, though, right? All right. So, what are we going to do to combat that, though? So, Japan is doing a bunch of stuff that we don't like, but we're still not involved, right? But there is one thing we can do. What can we do?
Trade embargo.
Trade embargo. Okay. Specifically, what is most important? Oil. Okay. Oil is the most important because what do you need to run your war machine?
Gas.
You need gas. You need diesel fuel. You need oil. You need like the lubricants, all that stuff that comes from crude oil, right? All right. So they need the oil, and so they're gonna need that oil to run their whole military operation, right? And that's why they take over so much of China anyway, because they're an island and they have limited what? Resources. Okay? Limited resources, so they strike out and they go and try to get some other resources from somewhere else. And that's the same story with Italy. Where do they go?
They go to America.
All right.
No, they go to that place.
What country? Africa is the continent, but what country starts with
Ethiopia.
Ethiopia. All right, so Italy goes to Ethiopia. Japan goes to China. and then Germany invades where?
Russia.
Rhineland.
The Rhineland, not Russia yet. Okay, so they invade the Rhineland and the Sudetenland. Okay, because they're looking for resources. That's what they wanted. Right. So those are the reasons why World War II starts to begin with. But let's look at the very specific, like when we declare war. Why does Europe declare war?
Because
Why does Europe declare war? Not the United States. Why does Europe declare war? So where's the line in the sand that we draw?
When Germany invaded Poland.
Okay, so Germany invades Poland. Okay, now Hitler and Stalin have something called a what? Non-aggression pact, right? So they're going to be buddies, and they decide, you know what? Let's be friends. Let's share Poland.
and then
Now, what is that in direct conflict with? We had just told them. We just told them, don't invade Poland. If you invade Poland, you're going to have a problem. Okay, and so they're like, okay, let's invade Poland, and they do. Okay, what tactic do they use to invade Poland? Blitzkrieg. Okay, not D-Day yet. We're not there yet. We'll get there today, though. All right, so still recording my finger. So we use Blitzkrieg tactics, and that's what Germany is going to use throughout World War II to take over all these countries and cities. Okay. Now, that's why Europe gets into the war is when they invade Poland. Okay. But then when they invade Finland and Norway, that's when it's really like, okay, we got to do something. Okay. Because that's getting right in Britain's face. Okay. And they're just an island, right? Right now, let's talk about the second question. Why did the U.S. enter the war? All right, Hunter?
Pearl Harbor.
All right, Pearl Harbor, okay? Can somebody tell me what happens in Pearl Harbor? Yes, sir. All right, so they bombed Pearl Harbor. They attacked Pearl Harbor with several planes, kamikaze pilots, that kind of thing. So kamikaze is they attack with bullets and torpedoes and whatever they've got on their plane, and then when they're out of that, what do they use to attack?
The plane.
They use the planes themselves, okay? So the plane has a little bit of fuel left, so they figure it's going to blow up, right? And it does, okay? So this is a catastrophic loss in Pearl Harbor for the United States. So pretty much the next day, you guys remember what happened with John McCain's dad? He tells the story. His buddy pulls up in a pickup truck, tells his dad, John McCain's dad.
He goes and enlists the same day, and then see his kid for 3 months.
Yeah, so John McCain's dad hears this from his friend Jack, and he's like, all right, let me go get my stuff. Goes upstairs, gets some, like probably a change of clothes, his shave kit, some pictures of his family, and then he goes off, and he volunteers. All right, and this is the story for a lot of the United States, right? So a lot of people are going to volunteer. What else are they going to have? Besides volunteers, you're going to have what?
Draft.
The draft, right? You're going to have recruiting stations for sure. But the draft is where the bulk of the fighting force is going to come from. Okay. All right. So this is kind of where we are at this point. Okay. We haven't really talked about the beginning of the war. We've only seen it in the video, right? Yeah. Are we taking notes? Yeah, we're taking notes in just a minute. All right. So that's those two. All right. So Pearl Harbor is really why the United States gets involved. But really, it's not just Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is just like the final straw, right? Philippines too. Okay, so the Philippines, they're taking over the Philippines, and the Philippines is United States territory, right? So there's a lot going on. It's not just Pearl Harbor. Okay, so Pearl Harbor is just the thing that we're like, all right, you forced our hand. We've got to get involved. Do you have something to say?
Can I retake my quiz now?
No. Okay. Just ask me again after lunch. Okay. All right. So, let's see. Pearl Harbor.
It was something about the Philippines.
The Philippines.
You know, what something to do with oil.
Maybe we'll come back to it later. I don't remember. All right. So we've got all these different mistakes that get made by Germany and Japan. Okay, so number one, and y'all already wrote this down last week. They violate the non-aggression pact with Soviet Union. All right, why do they violate this?
Because they attacked Russia.
Well, why do they think that? Why does Hitler think that he can attack Russia?
Because he thinks he's the greatest army in everything.
He's an airhead. He thinks he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He thinks he's all that, right?
Sliced bread. He thinks he's the greatest thing I've ever been.
Yeah.
Not even slice of bread. Slice of bread.
All right, so you can take it a step further than that too. All right, so he invades the Soviet Union. Stalin is not gonna like this very much. All right, so that's mistake number one. Mistake number two is what happens on December 7th, Pearl Harbor. Right. So Pearl Harbor is going to happen. This devastates our Pacific Fleet. So we're not completely wiped out. We've got some stuff left that we can fight with. But this is going to bring the United States into the war. The famous admiral that is responsible for this attack on Pearl Harbor is going to be quoted as saying, they're congratulating him, saying, you've done such a great thing. Congratulations on your success. And he's going to say, I fear all we have done is awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve. All right. So what does that mean?
They were scared. We're pretty much going to be
Scared of. What are you going to say? Regretted what he did, and he is correct, right? So what are we making in all the factories before 1941? We're making refrigerators, we're making cars, we're making all kind of stuff for the consumer, right?
Yeah.
So as soon as Pearl Harbor happens, we're going to have a bunch of factories that are going to shift their production in a completely different direction to go where? What are they going to make?
Bombs, airplanes,
guns, bullets.
All right, so we're going to turn all these into like military munitions factories. We're going to be cranking out a lot of war machines, right?
Just like that.
So just like that, exactly, we awaken the sleeping giant, right?
Get to work, boys.
All right, and he's very correct in saying this. Okay, now,
I don't think I've ever seen. Is there even like? Are those still a thing? Like, do we have factories that make bombs and stuff?
not that you would be able to visit.
No, not visit, but see. Like,
You won't know about those. All right, so there's still factories that make those kind of things all over the place, but it's not like it's not as big of an effort as was in this time. Okay, because this is like at this point.
We've already stockpiled it.
All right, at this point, the United States is in all hands on deck mode. All right, so everybody gets involved. The public gets involved. They're doing rubber, used tire drives to make new tires for the military. They're doing saving your cans to recycle to make bullets and shell casings and all that kind of stuff, and they go in guns and all that kind of stuff. You got a question?
I was gonna say, if we went to World War III, would we start doing those factories all over?
I think if we had World War III, we would already be prepared for it. Okay.
Oh yeah, no. I think we
So
said
that's
so-
what do you think?
To talk about this fact, there are a few famous journalists who have had the same idea. Why do we think that no one tries to invade the mainland directly?
because that's where the mother is.
Because we are unstoppable.
All right, we're unstoppable. All right, so what do we think about, especially the American South? What does everybody have here?
Guns.
Okay, everybody has guns. Guys, focus 1 second. Focus. All right, so everybody in the United States has, we got a lot of guns per citizen, right? So a lot of people, especially in the South, have guns, and typically in the South, especially, people know how to use them because they hunt for food as part of their subsistence, right?
We like loud moves.
All right, so that's one of the reasons that people theorize that nobody ever tried to invade the mainland of the United States.
Has there like ever been like a big war like from like in the modern time and near Jordan, not near the United States?
Not really. Not really.
We could just hit them with a drone.
All right. So we got a couple minutes. Let's get through this review here of last week's stuff. All right. So Pearl Harbor happens. We have this invasion, and it's very big deal. All hands on deck for Americans. Everybody is up in arms and very upset about this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking I can touch the screen, but the screen didn't work today.
That thing's on floor.
Wow, what happened?
That thing's on that blue quarter page on floor.
All right. So the next big mistake is Hitler's assumption that he is going to be so successful in the Soviet Union. Okay, so they invade Russia. Does anybody remember when they invade Russia?
Like what year?
All right, so there it is at the top, June 1941. All right, so June, what season is June?
Summer.
Summer, spring, depending on how you look at it. It's summer, right? So June is going to be in the summertime, so there's going to be grass on the ground, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be fine, right? So Hitler thinks, okay, this is easy. We're not having any issues right now, so we're gonna conquer Russia, no problem. But it takes a long time for him to get any success because you got to get all the way across Russia. You got a long distance to travel, and then by the time the fighting really gets started, it's getting close to winter. By the time the fighting really gets heavy, they are in winter. And who's prepared for the winter?
Russia.
Russia is prepared, and Germany is not. Right? Russia is very ready. They have some. They have Siberian forces who basically live in Siberia, which is famously cold, right? Cold all the time. So these Germans are having to trudge through 3 feet of snow and have a hard time, right? So it's a big mistake for Hitler and his forces. Okay, so he thinks that he's all big and bad, and then all of a sudden it's the middle of the winter, and he's kind of not doing so good. Okay,
He's
he's
got
cold.
that big mustache to cover.
All right, now what about? All right, so he tries to go for Stalingrad. Why does Hitler want to go for Stalingrad?
Because his name.
That's
That's
like
like
because it's his
All right,
name.
so of course it is a strategic place, and it's important for strategy, and like they want to take over the place, but also it's got Stalin's name written on it, and he's like, it's like one of those. It's like if your younger sibling has their name on a sandwich in the refrigerator. You know, if you're a big brother, you just want to take it just because you can, right?
Well, because it's the only thing in the fridge to eat.
All right, so that is that's kind of the attitude that Hitler has with that at this point. Okay, so that's why he's thinking. All right, so we got a couple more minutes left before lunch, so just sit tight for a second.
How